You're listening to Prime Sports Tennis with Andrea Leand on the Prime Sports Radio Network. And on today's show, why are all the players so happy? Well, we'll let you know why. We have the latest ATP rankings race to London. Speaking of the race, Rafa Nadal reaches the Emirates #1 ATP ranking for the fourth time. The U.S. Fed Cup team was announced. We'll tell you who made the team. Andrea will name her PST Manager of the Year, including a few honorable mentions. We have the premiere of Facebook fan questions and much more as Prime Sports Tennis on Prime Sports Network starts now. All right, it's a Thursday, the 2nd of November, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and joining us once again here on Prime Sports Tennis is lead tennis analyst and former top 15 player in the world, Andrea Leand. So, Andrea, I know you didn't go to Singapore, but I'm sure it felt like it after the busy week you had.
Well, it was just such a great week. The smiles are continuing. Venus Williams has become #1 in one category this year, and that is prize money, almost $5.5 million this year, due to the fact she got to the finals of 3 of the top 5, of course, the 4 Grand Slams and the WTA finals. What an incredible year for her, 37 years of age. But boy, Greg, $5.5 million isn't bad. And Sloane Stephens, #5 on that list, with just over $4 million. So that primarily based on obviously that U.S. Open victory and a couple of other results. But it's incredible the amount of money the girls are able to make, and they are just loving it. You know, we hear so much about all the different challenges they go through all year on the tour, but they are absolutely thrilled to get through, to be on their off season at this stage, to have had such successful years, and of course the prize money reflects that. Jack Sock, we should mention, is playing today in Bercy. He had a big win, Greg, yesterday, beat Kyle Edmund, a nemesis of his. Of course, Edmund just announced a huge Nike deal yesterday, but Sock, also a Nike boy, probably wanted to protect his place in that food chain because after losing the first, needed 2 breakers to prevail. Plays Puig today, of course, in their quarterfinal. We have to give a huge congratulations to Rafa Nadal. Ends the year at #1, Greg. #1, the oldest to do it. Beats out Roger Federer with his win yesterday against Chung, 5-3. Comprehensive match there for Rafa. Not overwhelmed by the whole occasion, though. Obviously, he's been #1 before. I think he wanted the win over Roger, though. I think that's the one thing that he hasn't been able to do this year, and that's why London is going to be such an incredible event, because that's where both men will be in it, and we'll fight for that finish. But Rafa Nadal ends the year at #1. And, of course, we do want to mention, of course, lots of smiles over already in England. Princess Kate out there with Joe Conta. Joe Conta, of course, who had to withdraw from the end of the season with a foot injury, was out there doing a kids clinic with Princess Kate, and they were just loving it. You know, they're interacting with the kids, playing tennis with the kids, and this is the type of thing we want to see, you know, in all aspects of the sport, is the fact that our big stars are out there, and, of course, Princess Kate supporting the cause was terrific. And we have to give the shot of the day still. Everyone is still talking about Diego Schwartzman's behind-the-back passing shot against John Isner. What an incredible competitor and year he has had. Of course, he beat Team at the Canadian. You know, not one of the biggest players, as we talked. He's about a foot shorter than John Isner, but great to see. And a big shout-out to Larry Ellison and Oracle. They've announced that they have now created two events for both the women and the men before Indian Wells next year, the BNP Paribas Open, to allow the lower-ranked players to have some chance to gain points. These are going to be 125,000 events on the WTA Tour, and challengers as well on the men's. And both the men and the women will be able to play these events and gain points to then hopefully qualify for a main draw wildcard into the BNP Paribas. So he's bringing tennis back to the States, and that's what we need to see. We want to see more tournaments back in the United States so that we can really encourage the American kids to get back into the game and to grow the sport.
All right. Now, as far as the rankings for the men's side is concerned, I believe 6 of the 8 spots are set, and David Goffin, he's another match or 2 away from clinching the 7th spot, and then the other spot is pretty wide open. We could see Juan Martin Del Potro, right? He still has a chance.
Well, he won. He just won. They put him on first today.
Oh, great.
He beat Haase, and he is still in contention, and of course everyone is rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? Wasn't able to play the Australian, got off to a late start this year. Quite frankly, I don't really think his year turned around until the U.S. Open, until he was able to beat Roger, did lose to Rafa. But that's really, to me, where he started his best tennis, and another level of tennis, we should say, because he's been playing, 30-ish tennis right up into the Open. But now he's getting to those semis and finals. And he knows it. There's no better competitor on the men's tour than Del Potro, and so he knows it. He's going for it, and he won today.
Awesome. All right. So also we've got some U.S. Fed Up Cup news where Sloane Stephens and Coco Vandeweghe are now going to highlight the U.S. team. So no major surprises, though, but excellent that we get Sloane coming off the U.S. Open win to participate. What a great job Coco did all season long to put this team in a position to win the Fed Cup title for the first time in many years.
Well, I was up very early, actually, this morning watching Coco win her match in Zhuhai, and she really looks absolutely sharp. I mean, Pat Cash is there. They're loving this. These two are so funny together, and I think Coco just feeds off his, good humor and his really casual way about it. But he has also very, very good strategy for her. He's really given her a great game plan, and she's responded well. And so she has won both her matches in that round-robin format over there. She's won her group, so she should proceed to the semifinals. But as you mentioned, yes, she and Sloane are up to represent the United States in the Fed Cup final. They are going for that first title in 17 years, Greg. Can you believe it? Wow. And they're going to be playing in Belarus. Vika Azarenka will not play. That is the surprise. She was hoping to do so. She had counted on it, but we had suspected in the last couple of weeks when the training was lacking and there were more tweets about pictures of her doing photo shoots than hitting tennis balls that she was still embroiled in this custody battle, which has been extended past the expected October resolution date. And so she's still involved in that. And look, we hope, Greg, she's just listening to her attorneys. She's being smart. She's staying off of social media. That never helps anything. And getting this resolved so she can go on with her life, obviously. We would like to see her back on the tour, but that's obviously secondary when you're in a situation like this. Concern over her 10-month-old son, Leo, is obviously the priority, and finding a way to make it all work. So we hope that's her attitude and that she's smart about it, because we can't wait to see her back. But Belarus will have a very good team. It will have a young team, but the U.S. is absolutely the clear favorites with Coco and Sloane, as you mentioned. And Venus and Madison Keys did opt out. Of course, Venus said so at the WTA Finals. Madison still rehabbing that left wrist. But they have plenty of firepower with Coco and Sloane, and we should mention Shelby Rogers and Allison Risk. So that would be an incredible opportunity. It doesn't really matter who you have to play. When you win that Fed Cup title, that's all you remember.
Yeah, and that is going to be we're still less than 10 days away from the beginning. I think that's November 11th. So we first get the Next Gen finals next week, then we get the Fed Cup, then the ATP finals, then the Davis Cup. So still a lot of great tennis for us to cover the rest of the month.
Kathy Rinaldi, first-time captain, leading the way. Lisa Raymond will be the assistant coach, I think, in that one too, Kathy. And so, you just have a great support system now. The USTA backing it completely, really reinventing it this year with hiring Kathy and the approach they've taken. It's been a full-time job for her. And let me tell you, she was out there at the U.S. Open every single match for every single girl, not only at the U.S. Open, but every tournament she goes to. So she has been omnipresent, 2 feet in, and I think the girls really have enjoyed that. They enjoy her support. She actually coached Coco at a couple of events this year, as she did Mikhail and others. So she's really become part of their support system, and that's really, I think, what the USTA was hoping for.
All right. Now, let's talk about your Prime Sports Tennis Manager of the Year. And first, let's get some honorable mentions.
We're going to get some honorable mentions because this is always a tough one. I remember I worked at Tennis Week with Gene Scott, and this is always we had a yearly agent issue, he would call it, and this is the one he would pass on to me.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did not want to write this story, and so he'd send me out there to get my head chopped off.
There you go.
But it is important because the manager is important. We've talked so much about the coaches and so much about the other team members, but the agent is important. The manager is the one that ultimately is involved in all the important decisions.
Yep.
And we have to start out with who else? Tony Godsick. I mean, how can you not talk about Tony Godsick when he has done such an incredible job with Roger Federer? He left IMG. They went off on their own. Teammate was formed, and you just really weren't sure what direction it was going to head, but they've been successful on every front. And, of course, he's done a great job managing Roger. It certainly helps to have Roger on your side, obviously, as your client. But the Labor Cup, I think, is what people are still talking about this year. That just took an enormous amount of management and team building and acumen to be able to pull that business venture off so successfully. So we credit him. He does manage players as well, other than Roger. He's had Dimitrov. He's had Del Potro, quite frankly. And so there's been a lot of different dimensions to this small company, a boutique firm, he would say. They also hired Mark McCormick's grandson, so that's always a good thing, because anything having to do with Mark McCormick, will be a success. So I think that we give a nod to Tony. We also give a nod to Patricio Pei, another guy who left a major firm to start his own company. He used to manage Gabriele Sabatini. And now he has helped Sasha Zverev into the top 10, who will be number 3 in the world, and is really considered the premier, next-gen superstar. He's the one everyone is, counting on to win the Grand Slams, be ranked number 1. And you have to do it with a great manager behind you. And Patricio Pei, in his kind of low-key way, but very shrewd, very smart, savvy business skills, has been able to do that. But we've also talked about, where are the women managers?
Yeah.
I always get asked that when I do these things at colleges where, you have young college kids coming up who want to get into sports management, and they don't really see a lot of female managers out there. And yes, most of the women are either the day-by-day person, they would call it, or the assistant. But we have some. And, of course, Jill Smoller has spearheaded that, transcended the tennis management business, because she's head of WME Sports. She doesn't just handle Serena, the biggest superstar, but she handles Olympic athletes, NBA stars. She was in Shanghai, and when the men were there. So she has been all over the place, and just really spearheading careers at all levels. So she has done an incredible job being a role model for women in this area. As has Octagon. We have to give them a nod. Kelly Wolf has worked there for decades, managing lots of their top players. Now, of course, Jared Donaldson, who is, by the way, in that next-gen event next week in Milan. He is the only American to do so, and he is the top grade of those American next-gen group. He is them by far the best this year. But Kelly Wolf's been behind that, as has, they have Joe Conta as a client, and Vicky Brook is managing her, so she's a little bit on the younger scale of things, which is nice to see. But our manager of the year, there was no question, hands down, everyone agreed, we put it out there on Facebook, is Virginia Rizich. And she has managed Simona Halep from day one. She, of course, so we have to first mention, is a former great player. And rarely do you see this in management, having a former great player get into management, because it involves so much more than, let's say, commentating or coaching,
Sure,
where you can draw from your playing days. But Virginia was ranked number 8 in the world. She is the only Romanian to win a Grand Slam title, 1978, the French Open. She also got to the doubles. Actually, she won the doubles that year with Mima Yalcevic and got to the finals of the mixed doubles as well. So she's a very versatile player. I played her, Greg. She has the fiercest forehand you will ever see. She is very athletic. She is very light on her feet. She moved well. And she had that slice backhand that always was able to mix up the pace. But she was by far what I considered one of the best competitors out there. She was smart, and she was very crafty, and she was just one of those people where you had to hit one more ball to beat. She would never give it to you. But we do want to mention, though, there was one story I read about her, and, of course, this was before my time, but she also was a very good sport, and she had a great air to her. And this was at Wimbledon. She was playing Yvonne Goolgarn. Yvonne had a hurt ankle, went down on the court. Her husband, Roger, came running out to help her. And at that point, she should have been defaulted. As soon as he touched her, she should have been defaulted. But they asked Virginia, do you mind playing on? And she did. And unfortunately, she lost the match. But you know what people remember is what a great sport she was. And so, and that is really what we see right now, Greg, and how she manages Simone. You just see that incredible perspective and big picture thinking. She doesn't sweat the small stuff. She doesn't get upset over anything. She has been with Simona, as we mentioned, right from the time Simona won that French Open junior title at 16. I actually met her when I was 16, when I first came on tour as a rookie, too. And there was no one more supportive and encouraging than Virginia. And she has really helped Simona, who obviously now is a superstar in Romania, and still doesn't have the Grand Slam title that Virginia does. We do want to point that out, Simona. But she has been 2 feet in every step of the way. I saw them in Miami at the Miami Open, and she was right there. Nothing wrong. She says, everything is great. Simona's great. Everything's terrific. Saw her at the Open, and there the two of them are. They look like sisters. They're walking down Fifth Avenue, giggling and laughing and enjoying themselves. This is, obviously after Simona just heard she had to play Sharapova in the first round. But they were going to do business. And I think the interesting thing is that Virginia really is able to, keep Simona's mind focused on what's important and the positive and moving forward. And I think this is what was so crucial to Simona this year, in knowing she had Virginia, who had been through it all, understood her feelings, understood the experience that only a Grand Slam champion could, to help guide her through it all to what is number one in the world now.
All right. Well, I mean, look, you know the differences because you've been around a while. You've had managers. So you tell me, what is the biggest difference from when, as far as responsibilities for a manager, for what they had to do for you as a player, 20, 30 years ago, as opposed to what they have to do now?
Well, I think the money is so much bigger now, and the business is so much bigger now than when I played. And so, when we played, the idea was, when you first start and you're a rookie, you're just looking for feeder contracts. You're looking for the funds to be able to travel, to have the coaching, to have what you need to become better. But once you become a top 20, and then obviously in the case of these other ladies like Simona, when you're top 10, number one in the world, to me, it's become more about branding and platforms and creating those bases so that when you retire, you have something to fall back on and you have a business to really attend to. In my day, I think the top players were really looking at making enough money so you had enough to live off of the rest of your life. And now I think the girls are a little bit more sophisticated, and the guys, for that matter, are more sophisticated in their thinking and want more. They want to get that branding, that extra element, that extra arm of the business in place. We've seen both Maria and Serena do it so incredibly well. And I really think they both have set a model for the players. And Roger Federer himself said this is why he did the Labor Cup, because he doesn't want to just have commentating and coaching as his only options when he retires. Because even though obviously they have enough money to live off of, they want to be able to still be very functional, very purposeful. They want something to do in their life that they're going to enjoy. So I do think that is the difference now, is that it's just become far more extensive and sophisticated.
Go get some water. I mean, you do such a great job.
Let me tell you, I thought my 3:30 a.m. mornings were over until I had to watch Coco today, and she's always entertaining. So
that's okay.
The 2:30 a.m. wake-up call continues.
Well, hopefully we'll have a few more weeks to go before before everybody comes back from Asia and overseas. And like you said, that's why it's important to have some more events over in the U.S. and the Eastern time zones would be nice for us. But anyway, catch your breath, because we've got some questions we want to get to you now from a new segment we're going to have each week. And this is going to be for tennis fans. You can go to Andrea Leanne's Facebook page, and she is going to answer your questions on the show. So,
well, by the way, this is another reason why I've been up all night. I just got my Facebook page a couple months ago. First time, and so it's been incredible. I just can't even believe the reach we have. And of course, the show's been out there, but I'm up all night hearing that ping go off on the Facebook, and the ping, people wanting to be confirmed to log on to the show or be friends or whatever. And so I was getting up every single time I heard the ping. Finally, I was so tired, Greg. I just went, and you're supposed to, I guess, try and find some mutual friends, and before you confirm someone. So if you don't know any of these people, and I finally just was so tired a few nights ago. I just went up and just confirmed everyone. I mean, everyone, hundreds of people. I don't even know who I confirmed, and then at 5:15 they another ping went off. Prince Madula from Ghana is waving to you, and do you want to wave back? And so, no, I don't want to wave back. But what I did see when I went down to look to see all these people that were being confirmed was Romania has an incredible fan base.
Yeah.
And they have really loyal, passionate, intelligent fans out there who love tennis, love Simona, obviously, and they are always interested to know everything. So it's great to see the Spanish Tennis Federation logging on to us, and of course we have people from England and South Africa. We have Judy Murray. We have lots of the insiders, we should say, 438, by the way, on a private email list. But it's great to know that we have been able to be the vehicle for the players, and as well we can now be one for the fans too, because we want to answer their questions. This is really, when it comes back to it, about the fans, about their experience, about getting out and reaching out to kids, especially to try and grow the game in a positive, entertaining way.
And of course, we have also, because I didn't think you had enough work on your table, we have created a specific account on Twitter for tennis. So Andrea is going to be, it's already set. So if anybody wants to I'm
a little nervous about the Twitter, Greg.
I know. I'll help you there if necessary. But it's PSN Tennis. So it's at PSN Tennis, as in Prime Sports Network. You can go ahead and start following us now. It's all ready to go. And Andrea is going to start to get to work on that real soon. So we've got the Facebook page up for Andrea, and of course now the official Prime Sports Network Tennis Twitter account. But first, let's go ahead and see if we can get you to answer some of these questions. We'll start with Tomas from Spain. He asks, so many number ones this year. Will Serena be number one when she comes back? And he also wants to know, how do you think Maria will do?
Well, mathematically, I don't know if Serena's going to play enough tournaments. She just declared today that she is not going to play Brisbane. Apparently, it's highly unlikely, I think was the term used. So I don't think she'll play enough WTA events to qualify mathematically for that number one ranking. But she is going to dominate the field. I will promise you that.
Yep.
She has been panting at the bit this whole year, watching everyone have their turn at number one and the Grand Slam title. It has just made her hungrier and more determined to come back with the same ferocity that we saw before. So I have no doubt she's going to get the 2 Grand Slam titles to break Margaret Court's record, and she will also again set the standard on court. So I have great hopes in Serena's return. I think we are going to see an even tougher, more determined Serena with Alexis Olympia on the sidelines.
All right. Katie from Texas wants to know, how does Caroline Wozniacki and other girls stay so slim? Do they have a special workout and foods they eat? And also, who is the fittest?
Well, we all should take a lesson from Caroline Wozniacki. There's no one who has provided more off-court exposure than Caroline Wozniacki has. I mean, she was the cover girl for the ESPN bodysuit issue. She's been in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. I should say the ESPN body issue was incredible, absolutely incredible. And Caroline Wozniacki always looks in shape. She herself says it was her fitness is what carried her through to that WTA final title, biggest of her career. And the way she does it is, to me, she's very balanced about it. She does run a lot. She ran the New York Marathon. She's a great runner, a great athlete. But she enjoys being involved in all kinds of exercise. I see her in New York. She is doing the yoga. She is doing the plank stuff. She is doing all kinds of spin classes. And she has I think you would call it a cross-training approach in the off-season, where she does a little of this, a little of that, because she isn't playing tennis. She puts the rackets down for 4 weeks. But she has a very good idea, a very good sense of, balance. And I think that's the key, as well as in her diet. She loves her chocolate. She endorses chocolate. How could she not? But she has a good balance, and I think she does like cross-training when she is not obviously in competition.
Okay.
But where's her book, by the way? I mean, when are we going to get the Caroline Wozniacki fitness book on how to do it? Because there is no one who has researched it more than she has and is more disciplined about it. So, yes, I think that's a question I get all the time. These ladies look so terrific and so slim and great, and what do they do to get there? WTA should come out with a book.
Maybe you should help them with that. That's. I mean, I know how often you see somebody's fitness approach, and then you're out there trying it the next day. So,
well, I have to say on both tours, men's and women's, they're very disciplined. The guys too, they have gotten into better shape as the years have gone on. They've really learned how to, redefine a little bit the diet and the exercise, and that also has become far more sophisticated than I remember. But they are very disciplined. All these athletes, even I can't get over how slim and trim these guys are. You get there and you see them in person, and it's just incredible what great shape they're in. So both tours deserve a lot of praise for that, because that's the hard work, Greg. That's what goes into obviously their tennis.
Now, Praul from India, who has a 9-year-old daughter, and maybe this should apply too, the same question regarding fitness, because I'm sure there's a lot of fathers, mothers out there that want to know about their young, talented, potential tennis stars of the future, and what kind of routine as far as fitness that they, of course, again, young girls and boys are a lot different fitness wise. Where should you draw the line there between too fit or you're going over the line with what they're eating?
I think that this man, actually, he's written us a lot on Facebook. He has a 9-year-old daughter. He really wanted to know about coaching.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best thing? What do you look for in a coach when you have a youngster, 9, 10, 11? You want a coach who's great on technique and makes it fun. Those two are the ingredients. Obviously, you want to make it fun because you want to encourage them to want to come back and to continue to play. And obviously, this is not a team sport in such a way where they can, like soccer or football or basketball. So it's nice also to invite their friends, have a group clinic. I used to do that with my nieces, and they just love that. If you put them on a court with their friends, and you get, it's just so much more fun for them to learn the sport. And I also think, obviously, though, you need someone who knows technique. Technique is really important in tennis. And unfortunately, if you don't learn the proper technique early, you do end up paying the price later on. It does really limit limit the potential your game can take without having to make major changes at a later time. So Technique is important. Learn the right technique early, becomes muscle memory, and that's not an issue anymore. I think also he wanted to know, is it good, he asked, if for fathers to coach their children? And we've seen so much of that, including at the WTA finals, where we had Garcia with her father, Wozniacki, of course, with her father. And we've had fathers forever with, Chris Evert and Capriati. And we do see a lot of parents. I remember the Sanchez Vicario mom out there with Arantxa. And so parents are a real source of comfort. They obviously know how to communicate with the player best of anyone. They know how to push the buttons as far as what makes their child happy. And we see that on these on-court coaching breaks now with Caroline and Caroline Garcia. Garcia's father gave her such comfort in that Svitolina match when she was so upset and just crying, and he just was able to comfort her. So obviously a independent coach could not do something like that, and that's a dimension a parent brings. However, I do believe you need another voice, and Garcia probably would benefit from a voice about that serve, the technique in that service motion. So ultimately, I do think you do have to have someone consulting that is objective, that has been in the game and has the experience. But I think to a certain extent, a parent is great. I think your player or your child will probably tell you when they've grown up and when to spread their wings, and don't really need you there all the time, so you have to be ready for that. It won't be at 9 years of age, but it'll probably be around 15, 16, or 17 when the player will want some independence and want to think for themselves.
All right. And by the way, when is it too young to be talking to your kid about fitness, like proper nutrition and fitness?
Oh, I think that's just something you do from the beginning. I think that as Martina Navratilova said last week at the WTA finals, and saying to the girls, you really have to have good habits. And when you walk onto the court, it's got to be 100% effort every single time, even if you're not feeling great, even if it's not the best match for you. You have to at least give 100% effort, no matter what the tournament, what the round, because that's forming good habits. And that's what I think is so important in all dimensions of any sport or anything, is to form the good habits early. And of course, as these girls now, and the guys for that matter, when they go to these training academies and training camps, everything is far more sophisticated now, and there's far more resource for them in all these areas. But I think I think that pretty much they've really figured out this formula, and I think that's terrific.
Okay. Now, Stephen from Ohio wants to know where the WTA is on TV, something that we've talked an awful lot about this year.
Well, we put this one in there. I think this question was asked probably more than any other question on Facebook, and not only on my Facebook, but on everyone's Facebook. And we should say that the reason we want to answer this is because we really want you all to have the information. And that is the WTA rights are beIN Sport, and they paid a lot of money, and they deserve those rights, and they have improved their coverage as the year has gone on. The WTA also offers its own streaming. That is what I use. I have my iPad. I flip it on. It is phenomenal commentating. I listen to Jill Kravis and Kevin Skinner all the time, and a host of other commentators who are very, very good. And you can get it, right wherever you are, your iPhone, your iPad. And so those are the two. It's called WTATV.com and beIN Sport, of course, in your various local markets. Tennis Channel also is able to show women's tennis in other various forms during the year, the Fed Cup matches, the Grand Slams, certain events like Washington and Charleston. So, a lot of it's watching the individual coverage and picking up on that, but I think the streaming is the most reliable.
Okay. And then if you are somebody that just needs to, for whatever reason, watch it on television, on DirecTV, the channel is 620. And by the way, beIN Sports has done a better job with coverage. They did a really good job last week, more than just tennis. They showed some other profiles and segments and stories even after the tennis was over. So I think they realized what kind of popularity the sport that they're covering has actually impacted and could impact them. I mean, that's the whole reason why they wanted the package. And I think if they do spend more time on it, which they have, then hopefully they'll see the returns. And I'm sure they will. So, all right. And then finally, we have Tristan from South Africa who wants to know, why can't Roger Federer be number one? He's won everything.
Well, he's my number one. He's my player of the year. He has just done, for all that he has done on and off court. I mean, the on court, can there be any better? St. Roger, he has walked on water all year. Of course, the 2 Grand Slams, the Masters 1000 Series titles, unbelievable. But he's beaten Rafa every single time this year. He holds that head-to-head edge, obviously. And to me, that on-court prowess deserves to be recognized. But it's also the Laver Cup, all the off-court. I mean, we forget all the energy he has poured into really challenging the boundaries of how to present an event in tennis, to really reinvent it a bit, gain more mainstream fans, really push those boundaries. And I think the Laver Cup is really going to serve as a model now to a lot of tournaments on what you can do and to attract newer fans and younger fans. So this is all up to Roger, I mean, if you don't have Roger doing something like this, it really doesn't happen unless you're Larry Ellison. But Roger deserves credit for both fronts, and as we said, he's creating different platforms off-court that are helping the game, helping grow the sport. And yes, I think that he wishes that he had done a little bit better in Cincinnati, and he played Cincinnati and better at the U.S. Open this year, but he had that back injury. But that's really where he feels he lost the number one ranking mathematically to Rafa.